Do our conversations about crypto have you wanting to do more with your career? Check out Fidelity, which has been exploring Bitcoin and blockchain since 2014. They were the first traditional asset manager to launch a native crypto business and also among the first to launch a Bitcoin exchange-traded product. So why consider Fidelity? Because they invest in their talent with continuing education programs and they invest in their technology, ensuring associates are working with the latest and greatest so that their crypto teams can continue to improve and evolve their product, staying ahead of the rapidly changing digital asset landscape. With Fidelity's iterative, scalable approach, built to meet today's increasing demands across the digital space and a commitment to developing innovative tools, there's never been a more interesting time to work in crypto and DeFi at Fidelity. Explore Fidelity Crypto Careers today. Go to crypto.fidelitycareers.com to learn more. That's crypto.fidelitycareers.com. Fidelity is an equal opportunity employer. And now it is on with the show. My guest today is Matt O'Connor. Matt, of course, is the founder of Legion, which we'll learn about today, but essentially it's a platform that allows access to the best, everything from ICOs, pre-token sales. You get to invest like an insider. Essentially, welcome to the show, Matt.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Andy.
Just before we get into it, Matt, be good if you could please introduce yourself. Would love to hear just a little of your personal and professional backstory. Yeah, I guess what have you been doing in the lead up to founding Legion?
Of course, yeah. It's always a good story to hear from the founder, I guess, because it explains the why, right? People are working on what they're working on. So I love to kind of give the explanation. I like to tweak it a bit each time and kind of see how it comes together. But the way I tell the story these days is, from New York originally, started my career in traditional finance, like a lot of people from New York do. Worked at Ray Dalio's hedge fund Bridgewater for a number of years, algorithmic trading. Went from algorithmic trading. What I really fell in love with there was kind of the algorithmic side of things, the data science, the machine learning. And so worked as a data scientist, machine learning engineer for Web2 startups for a number of years, and really started to get interested in crypto back in the 2017, original ICO craze, right? As probably many of your listeners did, right? I remember fondly some of the ones that didn't go so well, some of the ones that did go well. And so a number of years later, had the opportunity to move full-time into crypto. And with my background of traditional finance and, modeling, simulations, data science, pretty naturally fell into parameter optimization and token design type of roles. So worked for like the Stacks Foundation, for instance, which is notable for doing the first and only SEC qualified ICO. Worked for Status, S&T token, one of the first ICOs in Ethereum. Long story short, have angel invested in, advised, worked for easily over 30 projects from kind of pre-token to post-token, and kept seeing founders make the same mistakes when it came to distributing their token. And so started to think about, how do we get back to the good parts of 2017, the good parts of distributing access and getting people that are not just VCs access while reining in the fraud? And how do we be smarter about token distribution? So using data and using kind of personas to make sure that when we're distributing tokens, they're going to the actual real human beings and users that can add value to the project, whether it's tweeting about it, providing TVL, contributing code, right? Actually add value instead of just farm the protocol, dump the token, and never come back. And so that's why I ended up working on Legion. Legion is now a platform for doing exactly that, for doing compliant public token sales and on-chain fundraising, where you as the founder get to hand select who is actually buying your token based on all this data about them, both on-chain and off-chain.
Got it. Thank you, Matt. Another way of looking at this, I guess, is, as much as you're kind of trying to, reinvent the ICO model in a much more positive and productive light, the other side of this, of course, is, I guess, essentially addressing what ICOs were originally intended to address, which I guess is maybe some of the weaknesses or disadvantages or, the unfairness of the legacy investing system. So, look, you don't need to go too deep into it, but just give us your kind of framework for what you think, I guess, is, broken of the old ways of doing things. And yeah, we can go from there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, right? There's, whether it's the technology itself, which is kind of a bit archaic, and right, like even in a major country like the US, even something as simple as sending people money, wiring people money takes days, is not free, is expensive. And so the moving things to on-chain rails is already a massive benefit. There's regulatory hurdles like the somewhat archaic accredited investor type of rules that basically say, you only get access to certain investments if you're already have a certain amount of wealth, which obviously, like, how can I access wealth building opportunities if I don't have wealth to begin with? It's kind of a catch-22. There's a lot on the technology side. There's a lot on the regulation side of the legacy systems that are holding things back. And I think that's, you know, or wrongly, ICOs and the permissionless nature of crypto really forced, right, both as an industry, traditional finance, and as regulators, policymakers, to really react and finally update some of these systems that haven't been touched for decades, essentially.
100%. All right. So that's the context, and you've done this a little bit, but give us the high level vision of, what Legion is and essentially just how it works, what you're doing here.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people might hear what I'm saying and think, oh, my mental image is a launch pad, right? Projects are coming here. They're selling tokens as anybody wants to buy them. And so there's a couple things we're doing differently. One is we are intentionally not a fully permissionless system. So you're not going to see just the average, project no one's ever heard of launching a meme coin and dumping it on people on Legion. You're going to see highly curated projects referred by some of the biggest investors in the space. And so just to give an example, we've run a couple sales where, or really every sale on Legion, investors are getting the same or better terms than VCs. Fuel famously launched on us, after raising it at $1 billion valuation, at a 200 million valuation, did a 4x after that. You've seen projects like Giza, projects like Almanac raise at the same valuations or slight discounts to their current VC rounds they're doing. And so that's a big difference from kind of the permissionless launch pads, where you've got a totally different type of project launching, different kind of value, and you're investing alongside some of the biggest and best VC names in the space, rather than being exit liquidity or investing in projects that these VCs just wouldn't touch. The second big differentiator is, unlike a launch pad where, there's just this anonymous blob of users from a project's point of view, right? From a founder's point of view, there's no connection between the token buyer and the project. On Legion, sales are actually designed to intentionally not be purely first come, first serve. So instead of tokens, being sold to bots and being sold to people who just click the quickest, right, or pay the highest gas, you apply for allocation. And to increase your chances of a project wanting to give you allocation, you can optionally connect your Twitter, your GitHub account if you're a developer, any EVM wallets, any SVM wallets. And what that does is it allows to paint a picture about, what type of on-chain user are you, right? What projects have you contributed to? What ecosystems do you belong to? Who do you have influence over, right? Like, who follows you? And so all that goes into, when you apply for allocation, a project can customize the max amount of allocation you get, the discount you get, the whitelist spot you get, based on your profile. And so projects are able to give better opportunities, all else equal, to you on Legion, because they're curating who's getting in. And so it's still a public sale. Anyone can apply, but the people getting the max allocation are probably going to be the people most valuable to that particular project, which is going to vary from project to project who those people are.
Yeah, fascinating. So you call that effectively the Legion score, right? And so
that's the name of our reputation system. Yeah,
that's the reputation system. That's how the allocation is decided. So just dig into that a bit more, Maddie, because it's fascinating. So number one, can who can join the platform and be eligible to submit their data to that system, I guess, and give it a crack. And secondly, just explain a little bit more, how that how that Legion score is, what it's based on, what are the different metrics, and can people game it? Or is it good because people are building up that reputation, and that's for the better ultimately? How does it work?
Yeah, amazing questions. I mean, from the get-go, we knew from the get-go, right, that people are going to try to game it, try to exploit it. So it's very important to design a system that's exploit resistant in crypto for anything you do. And so Legion score is the one kind of high-level score that summarizes a bunch of subcomponent scores. It ranks you Now, it doesn't mean that you automatically, like if you have a high Legion score, it doesn't mean that you automatically win every allocation. Again, teams can pick and choose who to give allocation to. So we're not forcing, only people with high scores to get allocation, but it does maximize your chances if you have a better score and better subcomponents. And so there's a subcomponent for kind of your social footprint, right? How's your social graph? Do you have a lot of mind share? Do you have a lot of interactions with what you're putting out there? There's a subcomponent for your developer contributions. Have you contributed code? Have you, moved any projects meaningfully forward? And there's subcomponents for kind of your, EVM on-chain activity, SVM on-chain activity, and even kind of your value add score for deals you've participated in Legion. Have you, how do you treat those, right? Did you just dump the tokens immediately? Did you help the founders? And so all these subcomponents have different scores of 0 to 1,000, as well as a bunch of unique achievement badges. So badges from everything for like being an early user of Pendle, bridging to base before the UI went live, right? Like all the hundreds and hundreds of things, getting dumped on by Olympus DAO. There's some fun ones in there too. And so projects can then filter and sort and look at, if they wanted to, they could literally go one by one and look at what's the cover letter you've written, what are the achievement badges you have, what are your scores on each subcomponent. They can also sort, filter, bulk approve. And so we had Almanac, for instance, recently did a sale. What they did is they kind of split their allocation. They said, okay, we have 2 million to sell. We're oversubscribed, 8 million requested. So we've got to, be strategic about who we're letting in and kind of, set a low max allocation so a lot of people can get in. And they kind of allocated like a third of the round to like developers they felt could contribute to their kind of AI, DeFi agents platform. They spent roughly a third on people with wallets. It seemed like they would be providing a lot of TVL to their vaults. And they spent roughly a third on kind of, people who tweet about these things that have social influence in the DeFi and AI space. And so they got really high value add investors for their sale. And all those investors are naturally now aligned and kind of passionate about that project, have, early access to buy the token before it goes live. So that's kind of the value proposition and some of the how that reputation scoring system works. And we've built it, as you touched on, with intentionally knowing that people are going to try and exploit it. So we use, not to get too in the weeds, but we use all kinds of mechanisms and algorithms like eigentrust type of approaches for people who really want to get into it, that kind of are naturally resistant to things like bot networks and people just upvoting themselves and spinning up a bunch of symbols and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Thank you, Matt. Look, I guess it'd be useful to understand, how long has Legion been operating and where you are now in terms of I guess like a go live phase. What's your what metrics are you watching in terms of user growth? How have you been actively promoting it, and is it more kind of like an investor word of mouth thing? Because you can see that something like this, which is call it what you want, ICOs 2.0 or 3.0, it's a little bit further down the track. You can see that something like this is really going to hold quite high appeal, I think, to certainly the retail investor market, but also the projects and so on as well.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, we're seeing a great reception from founders who love being able to distribute their token in a more meaningful way, rather than just like blanket airdrop it and hope for the best. And we're seeing great reception from real users in the space who appreciate getting early access to some of these sales. So, yeah, I mean, we've been around. Gosh, it's coming up almost on like 2 years from kind of first, concept of this to date. We've helped teams to date raise about $30 million in total. The median team is raising about $1 million in their sales on Legion, but we're about to hit a major inflection point. We just announced our own raise that we've closed from investors like Van Eck, Brevin Howard Digital, Coinbase Ventures, Kraken, Crypto.com, GSR. So a marriage of kind of TradFi players as well as crypto native companies. And so that, sets us up to really scale this up. We're also about to announce some pretty big partnerships that will increase our distribution. And so today you have about 150,000 people who signed up and have generated a Legion reputation score. We anticipate, soon being able to reach even a 10x bigger audience in terms of number of KYC users that will be seeing and having access to sales on Legion. And so Now's the time to join if you're listening, and now's the time to kind of check out sales on the platform. Anyone can sign up. Anyone can generate a Legion score reputation. Use that to brag to your friends, right? There are a couple countries and jurisdictions around the world where this is restricted for compliance reasons, but you won't be able to participate in sales, but you can still generate a reputation score and kind of enjoy that aspect of it.
Very nice. And what about, token sales are one thing. There's a lot of talk about RWAs, kind of, tokenized equity. I'm sure this is, very much on your mind. How do you think about kind of what's coming next, and how do you see Legion as playing its part in that?
Yeah. So there's a long evolution to this, but I'll kind of start from like the distant future and then work backwards to what immediately comes next. But really, we're building for the world where the future of IPOs, right? Initial public offerings in the stock market, and ICOs actually converge and become the same thing, right? You see IPOs happening later and later. They need to move on chain to keep up. They need to kind of change some of the disclosures and rules to be a bit less stifling of innovation and allow investors to still get early access. Meanwhile, you see ICOs being a bit more regulated, need to make disclosures, right? So I think you'll see this world where these two things will converge, and we'll just call it fundraising, but the rails will be on chain, and people will want to use the same tools we've been talking about to, just like they select and are careful about the VCs or angels they work with, select kind of the users that are buying into their token. So that's the future. We see obviously tokenized equity we're describing, but there'll be all sorts of assets that are tokenized that plug into our model, right? You'll see even in the future creators tokenizing themselves, right? Like imagine a creator like Mr. Beast tokenizing himself and selling tokens. And so you can buy, a share of 10% of the revenue that Mr. Beast earns from anything he does for the rest of his life, right? Like obviously that requires both on-chain and off-chain, improvements and kind of regulatory changes. But that is the future that kind of we're headed towards, and the one that we're building for. So I'm super excited about that, of just totally agnostic to the type of instrument and asset, but on-chain fundraising, and we'll just call it fundraising because the on-chain part will be taken for granted, right? It will be default.
Yeah. I'm fascinated, Maddie, that you're almost kind of leaning into the ICOs term or branding, which presume you didn't have to do that. You could have come up with something completely new yourself and started again, because I think you understand that ICOs carry a little bit of negative baggage to a lot of different vectors and sectors of people, So just interested in kind of why you're determined to, I guess, reimagine them and almost rebrand them, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's a personal fault of mine, because I do the same thing with the term tokenomics, right? Like my pseudonym on Twitter is Maddie Tokenomics, and obviously
Yes.
tokenomics is a very loaded term as well. But I do think ICOs ultimately describe what we're doing, right? It's an initial coin offering or initial token offering. So maybe, again, but I think it's the closest thing to what we're doing. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that, not throw the baby out with the bathwater, and that there are good things about the 2017 period. There's good things about ICOs. We just need to clean up the space, have cleaner disclosures, investor protections, right? Without being, without nannying people, give people true, and this was what the best projects in 2017 did, give them an accurate description, right? White paper, accurate description of the product, the risks, everything going into it, and then let people make their own decisions. And so that's kind of the route I want to lean. Understand there's a bit of baggage with ICOs, but I think it also galvanizes, right? Like the old school crypto people, like everyone, even if they lost money in some and got scammed on some ICOs, like people still love that era. People still feel invigorated by it. And so I think there's some, call it nostalgia, call it what you will. There is something there to tap into.
Yeah, no, I think that is very much the case. Very well articulated, Matt. Look, as we start to finish up just this part of the podcast, then for people that are not already, signed on and involved, but they're listening and they're like, well, I want a piece of this. What is the easiest way for people to get started? What should they do? Where should they go, Matt?
Yes. So our website is legion.cc. Our Twitter handle, our social handles are also the same, just spelled out. So Legion, DOTCC for our X handle, for instance. So check out our website, check out our X, legion.cc. That's the best place to get started. As I mentioned, you can sign up. You can very quickly, onboard and get a reputation score. You don't need to KYC. You can do that from anywhere to get that score. You can start to keep tabs on kind of what's coming. And unless you're in one of those few jurisdictions, that we can't offer anything to, you'll see the best deals, and you'll be in touch with what's coming down the pipeline.
Awesome. Yes, indeed. So legion.cc link is in the show notes. Folks, let's go to a very quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll have some fun. We'll finish off by running Matt through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Back in 1 second. And we are back, and I'm with Matty, the founder, of course, of Legion. Yeah, kind of reinventing ICOs. Matt, it's time to finish off the show. We do that, of course, by running you through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Are you up for it?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right, just going to run some questions at you, Matt, and I want you to give me your best kind of hot take style answers, if you like. Let's see what you have to say. Question 1 is very simply, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
I think right of center, or closer to the Bitcoin maximalist than the center person. I used to work for Stacks, the Bitcoin L2. Like, the future is Bitcoin and very, very few other things.
Very nicely said. All right. We've talked about the 2017 ICO era, an incredible time in crypto. Although, the euphoria did get a bit much, and some people certainly got burnt. Some people did well. Just give me maybe kind of two of your favorite memories. Maybe one could be good, one could be bad. Just of kind of the original ICO boom and bubble and bust, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, it was a hard. For people who weren't there, it's hard to describe. There was this electricity in the air, right? There was like a new launch happening every week, and everyone was buzzing. Everyone was reading the white paper, getting super excited about it, and just you were moving from like one to the next, which was a bit extractive, right? But things were popping off, right? So that was a positive memory. Some of the negative memories are every once in a while, right? You would run into a scam project that would just rug, or even not intentionally rug. Like, I remember some of the ICOs participating in, like Modem or Poet, kind of didn't go as planned. But yeah, I think I froze up there in a little, but I just kept going, and I think it's recording, so I think we can fix that in post. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that is the case. Thank you for that. All right, we'll go to the next question. So, Bill Gates famously said we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. 10 years is a long time, but, I guess ICOs, IPOs, on-chain investing, what does it all look like in 10 years' time?
Yeah. I think there will always be a place for kind of private networks. But most activity will be on chain. Right? A lot of the infrastructure that consumers use without even realizing it will be on chain, and a lot of the infrastructure kind of that industry players and businesses between each other are using, and to some extent they're already using, stable coins, for instance, to settle like bank-to-bank transactions, will be on chain. And so you'll just see this massive usage of on-chain, technology. There'll always be a room for kind of private networks that are not decentralized, for people who want to maybe, protect wealth or have specialized use cases, right? Or have a differentiated type of risks. But I think you'll have this world where people are, like we were talking about, tokenizing anything, tokenizing creators, right? And there'll be legal frameworks for doing that in a protected way. There'll be on-chain tools for people to do that and distribute. And you'll have this explosion of currencies and values, right? Like, I think, especially with stable coins, you'll have different types of stable coins, right? Like, I think we'll actually go backwards in some sense to kind of what it looked like before having a central bank that said, this is the US dollar. You had different banks issuing kind of competing versions of currencies. And I think to some extent, you'll have that kind of future where everything will be splintered, financial systems will be interoperable, but you can live in your own little ecosystem, kind of online in everything you do. And crypto in your finances will be no different from that general trend.
100%. All right. Another way of thinking about this, of course, is a wonderful quote by William Gibson, who famously said, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. With that in mind, Matt, what's an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
That is a great question. William Gibson, one of my favorite authors. I love that quote. That's a good question. I would say it's probably what I just mentioned. It's that banks and fintech startups like Robinhood are already using stable coins and crypto, and your average consumer has no idea, right? I'm just starting to get questions from like my normie friends about like, what are they like? Have you heard of these things called stable coins, right? Like, I think there's going to be an explosion of stablecoin usage and growth, and it is already here. It's just most people aren't aware of it.
100%. Brings us nicely to the final question, Matt, which is very simply, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
Yeah, so I think for me it'll have to be Snow Crash. I think Neuromancer and Snow Crash are like the two, all time best. But Snow Crash, I just love that book, and I recommend anyone who hasn't read it immediately go and read it. It predicted so many things 30 years ahead of time. It's freaky.
Yep. Most famously, the metaverse, really. But yes, thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us today, Matt. This was a lot of fun. Please just close out the show again by telling people where they can go to learn all about what you guys are doing, reinventing the future of investing with Legion. And look, shout out your X profiles, anything like that. Go for gold.
Of course, yeah. Again, appreciate for having me on here, Andy. Anyone listening in, you can find us at legion.cc is our website. Our X profile is just that spelled out. So Legion.dotcc.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you very much. Cheers.